You're watching The Experience, Comic Culture and Sales, streaming live daily to Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, and Twitter.
So I was just talking to JD, and I told him I was working on another soap sack. And mainly I'm working on another soap sack because I've got the yarn I bought, and I figured I'd use up the yarn because now that I've made two of them, you know, that the skein is getting kind of small. So I thought I'd make another one of these, and he suggested that I should start making these privacy sacks, or what's another one? Modesty sacks that they use on film sets during nude scenes for people to be able to keep their junk in. You know, those intimacy coordinators use them, and he suggested I start making those. But the problem with that is, if I start doing customized modesty socks, then I've got to have that conversation that I don't want to have, which is, how big do you need it? Because then it's got to ask about not only length, got to ask about girth. You know? And then, of course, I got to use cotton because you want to be able to wash it. You don't want to use acrylic. And plus, some people are allergic to acrylic. They have a reaction to it. And you don't want to make a modesty sock for somebody and then have them get all itchy with it. And that's just going to ruin the scene anyway. And then you got to wonder, what color do they want them in? I mean, do they want them similar to their own flesh? Or, I mean, we could do them like neon green, but I don't think that would work for filming. No, we could do like a blue screen color so that they could then edit it out in post, or edit in a different one in post. This is all the conversation I had just right before the show. So I should probably get to the show. We got a lot of news to cover. JD's probably sitting there going, when are we going to start the freaking show? Right now. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Dan Wickline Show here on The Experience. It is April 12th. I'm going to go with the 12th. Yeah, sure. We're going to go with the 12th. And we have a boatload of news. I mean, just stuff flying out today. I was going to plan on talking a little bit more about the Captain Marvel, or the Marvels trailer that came out, because I thought there was some interesting news on that. But so much stuff has dropped this morning that I think we need to talk about that stuff. So I'm going to save the Marvels for a deeper dive either tomorrow or next week, because I think there's some Easter eggs and stuff we could go over. But it's going to be an interesting day. We got a lot of stuff. We also have a good day today on The Experience. After this, of course, is Comic Collectibles with Rex and John and AR Comics. And then we have the trivia show, 3T, which is going to have Paul Gomez as the guest. We have 360 Comics is coming on tonight, and Kicking It with Henri. So it is a full lineup here on The Experience. You're going to want to stick around for all of it. And remember to hit that like and subscribe button that's down there. I'd appreciate it. Let's see who we've got so far. We got Cool, we've got Triple B, we got Jeff, and of course we got JD on the board. Jeff says, everyone needs a good junk drawer sack, right? But I never realized how many questions got into it. I mean, you don't want it just to be loose and hang. You want to make it, fit properly. So conversation you need to have. Though I am looking into the idea of making crocheted dice bags with drawstrings. So just thought that'd be fun to tackle next. Now that I've got this thing down, I think that's the problem is that you get into crocheting and the first thing you do is, well, I'm going to do a blanket. I'm going to do a scarf. I'm going to do a hat. And you start running out of things. My ex-wife, we got her into crocheting, and she's making bookmarks, which seem really odd to me, but she loves it. Or there's these stress toys that are all springy and stuff, and she makes those now. So lots of things you can do crocheting wise, and it's a nice, stress reliever, just hanging out. So Rex and John are loaded with tonight. It's a crazy huge rack tonight. So we're talking about sacks and racks. Okay, this is going to be one of those shows. Let's just get to the news. It's going to be so much easier. All right. First off, we have some news having to do with Deadpool. Ryan Reynolds it looks like he's trying to get the whole gang back together from the previous movies. As we've just learned that Morena Baccarin and Stefan Kapicic are set to reprise their roles as Vanessa and Colossus, respectively. Now, Reynolds recently announced that Karen Sony and Leslie Uggams would also return. They, of course, play Dopinder and Blind Al. And, so those are four of the main characters that were in the previous films. Have not heard yet about, what is her name? Negasonic Teenage Warhead or whatever her name is. Haven't heard about whether she's coming back or not, or if about her girlfriend. But everybody else is lined up. Of course, the movie has Hugh Jackman in it, along with additions of Emma Corrin and Matthew McFadden. This will mark the first Deadpool film in the Marvel Universe, officially the MCU. And Kevin Feige is actually going to be working as a producer on it. So it'll be interesting to see what he brings and how they kind of blend all this stuff together. So I thought that was a really good news bit this morning. HBO Max had a huge set of announcements today having to do with their streaming service and stuff. But we're going to start with the big DC news. We have learned the voice cast for Creature Commandos. Now, you have to remember, when they cast somebody for the voice of a character, they have every intention that if that character shows up in live action, it's going to be the same actor. I like huge racks. I'm more of a collar guy. Okay. Anyway, so now two actors are going to be coming back to reprise the roles. Sean Gunn will be voicing Weasel, and he played Weasel in the Squadron Supreme movie. And Steve Agee is coming back as John Economos, who he played in both Suicide Squad and the Peacemaker series. But new actors coming into the Creature Commandos. We have Frank Grillo. Now, we had heard that Frank Grillo was making the jump to DC in this role, but it hadn't been locked in exactly who he's playing. Well, now we know it's Rick Flag Sr., father of Rick Flag from the movies. Maria Bakalova, who voices Cosmo in the Guardians of the Galaxy movie, she's going to voice Princess Ilana Rostovic. Indira Varma, who you most recently saw in the Obi-Wan Kenobi series, is going to be playing the bride. Zoe Chow is Nina Mazursky. Here's a fun one. Alan Tudyk is going to be playing Dr. Phosphorus. Now, I know that he's one of the characters they're already talking about showing up in live action. So Alan Tudyk would be making jump in there too. IMDb is showing Brianna Hildebrand as Negasonic Teenage Warhead, for what that's worth. Thank you. I could not for the life of me remember the name of the character or the actress. Thank you. Oh, and also David Harbour. David Harbour is going to be playing Eric Frankenstein. So the guy who's already played Hellboy and is now going to be Red Guardian is going to be Frankenstein in the DC universe. The guy just seems to love comic book movies, doesn't he? So that's going to be the cast. And again, Gunn actually went on Twitter today, confirmed the Grillo part of the casting. He didn't say anything about the rest of them, and he did say that he was going to be playing the role across all media, in quotes. So again, that kind of verifies the whole live action thing. Now, David Zaslav was out talking today and talking about HBO Max. And we've known for a while that they wanted to kind of merge that with Discovery to make kind of a super streaming service, stuff like that. And that there was a possibility they were going to rebrand it. Well, the rebranding has happened. HBO Max is, and I remember this is the second time, because it used to be HBO Go and the DC Universe. So they took the DC Universe and turned it into HBO Max and moved all of HBO Go into it. So now it's HBO Max, but on the May 23rd, it's going to be called Max, just Max. And it will be the home for all of Max and HBO originals, Warner Brothers films, the DC Universe, the Wizarding World of Harry Potter and kids content, along with programs across food, home, reality, and lifestyle, and documentaries from, they say, leading brands including HGTV, Food Network, Discovery Channel, TLC, ID, and more. Now, they're also going to set it up where there's multiple tiers. So if you don't want to spend, as much, you can get an ad tier, a tier with ads on it. And that's going to be either $9.99 a month or $99 a year. So you say you get 2 free months if you buy for the year, and you do that with all these levels. And that comes with 2 consecutive streams. So you can be in your room watching it, and someone can be in the other room watching it as well. The next tier up, the ad-free tier, also has 2 consecutive streams. That's $15.99 a month or $150 a year. And then they have like this ultimate level that's going to be $19.99 a month or $200 annually. And with that, you get 4 streams. So now, as those are all, again, in your home, but if you have a bunch of people in your home and all of them want to watch it, you can do up to 4 there. Now, part of this presentation showing, the changeover and stuff was a bunch of interesting news. There's going to be a new Harry Potter series that we talked about the other day. That's finally gotten approved. There's going to be a spin-off of The Big Bang Theory, a new Game of Thrones prequel called A Knight of Seven Kingdoms, The Hedge Knight. There's going to be an original series based on The Conjuring, a Rick and Morty anime, a Tiny Toon Luniversity, and lots more. And then they also showed a lot of first looks today. We got our first look at the Penguin series, The Sympathizer with Robert Downey Jr., the new True Detective series called Night Country with Jodie Foster, and there's an animated series coming out called Gremlins, The Secret of Mogwai. Now, we're going to drill down a little bit into some of those announcements. The Harry Potter series is still in its just early stages, as J.K. Rowling just signed off on it. She hadn't up until now, but she's going to be on board as an executive producer. And they're just starting to look for a showrunner. Now, they're not putting this out there far and wide, going to agents and stuff. They basically have this short list that they've been building of who they're interested in, but they didn't start the conversations yet until it was announced. So now that it's announced, they're going to start calling people and seeing what they can put together. They finally drove enough dump trucks full of cash to Scottish Castle, pretty much. What's a guy who never got play when he was a young, handsome actor gets world famous as an American pudgy dad in middle age. Yeah, he's going to ride that pony. Absolutely. Is Domino going to come back? No, no word on Zazie Beetz yet either. So that's another character that we're still waiting to hear. On the Harry Potter series, what they're going to do is this isn't like a spin-off or an expanding of the world. They're actually going to go back and start over. They're going to go with a. They're going to go back to book one and start with the Sorcerer's Stone, and they're saying that will probably take up the full first season. But there might be some things from other books that show up when it's appropriate. But the plan is to do all 7 books over 10 years. This is a decade-long project, so they're looking for people, kids and stuff, to commit to a decade worth of this show. And I think honestly, this is good that they're looking at it 10 years instead of just 7, because the last few books, like 5, 6, and 7, are way bigger than the early books. And the idea that they could do those 3 books in just one season is pretty insane. So you have to appreciate that they're at least looking at this from a legitimate point of view, that, the books get bigger and the story gets bigger in each season, or each book. So moving on, along with the relaunch and the rebranding of Max, it's gonna come out on the 23rd. Well, they've announced that Shazam! Fury of the Gods will be available that day. So if you're like, well, I'm not going to see it in the theater, but when it pops up on HBO Max, I'll take a look at it. Well, you have to wait another 6 weeks. Now, this movie didn't do well in theaters, of course. It did 128 million worldwide, and it's pretty much out of the theaters already. It's going to hit VOD, and I think that's why they're delaying it, to try to get as much money they can off of rentals and stuff like that. But it's possible this might end up having a kind of Eternals effect for the movie. When the Eternals, of course, didn't do that well for Marvel. It didn't get a lot of play. People didn't get a good reception. But then they put it on Disney Plus, and ever since it went on to Disney Plus, it's been the top viewed movie on Disney Plus. So people who didn't go see it in the theater are sitting down and watching the movie at home. And there's a good chance that's what's going to happen for Shazam! Fury of the Gods. Now, it didn't get a lot of great buzz and stuff, but the audience reaction to it wasn't bad. So I think this has got a potential to be one of those sleeper hits, or where it kind of turns around once it gets into people's homes. Leonard says, ironic that they started blaming The Rock for Shazam failing. They were blaming everything for Shazam failing. The toxic fan base, The Rock, just everything they could think of, other than just going, look, it wasn't a good movie. But then again, the people I know who have seen it liked the movie. Kyle absolutely loved it. Then, of course, Kyle's really strange. So, Zazie is not listed as rumored, but Brianna says she is back in the Joker sequel. Like Brianna, but she is back in the Joker sequel. Okay. So, Zazie Beetz is not rumored for Deadpool 3, but she is rumored for the Joker, Faladu, or whatever it's. But Brianna is rumored to come back.
Brandon's rumored to come back. Zazie is. She's locked. She's in the Joker sequel.
Right. Okay. If you guys are Big Bang Theory fans and want to know what the spinoff is, turns out so does HBO Max. Creator Chuck Lorre is involved. They're going to do the show, but they haven't decided yet on who or what the series will focus on. Now, the fact that there's young Sheldon, I doubt that they're going to do anything with Sheldon, because he was already kind of the lead of the show. And since the actress who plays Wolowitz's wife is kind of busy now with a show called Night Court, I think that kind of narrows it down. So, what will they focus on? Maybe it'll be the guy in the comic shop. Maybe it'll be a whole show about a comic shop. Wouldn't that be cool? The Conjuring. Now, see, I thought it was interesting that The Conjuring is one of the series they're working on because it's coming from and being developed by Peter Safran and James Wan. And you would think Peter Safran would be a little busy right now since he's the co-chairman of DC Studios. But, yeah, they're working on this. And The Conjuring, I don't think I realized how big this franchise is. Do you know there are 7 Conjuring movies in the franchise, and they have brought in collectively $2 billion, billion with a B, worldwide? And there's an 8th film called The Nun 2 that's going to hit theaters on September 8th. Yeah. Yeah, Jay, it's going to be May 23rd. It'll be just Max. That was the original news. So they should do a Big Bang Theory Rick and Morty crossover where Sheldon is Rick's greatest nemesis. Yeah. Who do you get to play a live action Rick? Christopher Lloyd? One of the things we got to see today was the first image and footage from Matt Reeves' Batman spinoff series, The Penguin. Now, this was shown during the presser. Now it's online, so if you haven't seen it, you can check it out. It shows Colin Farrell back as Oswald Cobblepot, and you watch this thing. It has a total Sopranos feel to it. It's like Sopranos in Gotham. It's kind of cool. Now, Reeves's film made, it grossed 771 million globally, but they recently broke it down. And the film netted 177 million. Okay, clear, above profit. No, take out the cost, take out the advertising. They made 177 million. So that's why they're moving full steam ahead with Matt Reeves's Elseworld. Now, in the cast, of course, is Colin Farrell as Penguin, but there's also Kristen Milioti, Renzi Feliz, Michael Kelly, who we get to see in the trailer, Shohreh Aghdashloo, Deidre Collins, and also with the newer characters they announced, Clancy Brown and Michael Zagan. But there's some quotes that I thought were pretty cool. There's a voiceover by the Penguin. He says, "You ask yourself, what kind of life do I want? The world isn't built for guys like us. That's why we have to take what's ours." And then another line he says, as he's talking to this young boy, who I believe is Renzi Feliz, he tells him, you step out of line even once, I'll cut you like a goddamn fish. So you get the idea of the tone of the show. This I thought was interesting. We've got 2 more quick bits of news and then we'll take a break. But according to an official press release from Disney regarding Star Wars Celebration, and you guys might have saw the other day, oh, nice Loki reference there, JD. I said that Andy Serkis was at Star Wars Celebration for Andor. Does that mean we're going to get more Kino Loy, even though it looked like he was done in Andor? Well, it turns out actor Andy Serkis is set to return in season 2 of Andor. So the whole thing about him not being able to swim, it looks like he does get off in Arcana 5, and that he is in the cast list for season 2. Could be flashbacks, it could be something else. But Andy Serkis was so good in that role that I'm happy as hell to see him coming back. And then our last bit of news comes with 2 pictures. There's a new teaser out there for Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. I think it's called Greatest Hits. And it shows 2 characters that we hadn't really seen in the trailer before. The first one is Sylvester Stallone, who, of course, is returning as Starhawk. He has a different name. It's like Osgood something or other, Stackar. But he's returning as Starhawk, And here you see he's much more like the Starhawk we get from the comics. So whether it's just him or the whole Ravengers, and if you've noticed the lineup of Ravengers that we got in the second movie was basically the original Guardians of the Galaxy. So I am really hoping we get the full squad back and that they have some important part to play. The other image, we sort of saw him in the first one, but Nathan Cameo is actually getting his face on screen. This isn't the scene where you see Drax throwing somebody and then it looks like he gets stabbed. Right after he throws somebody, you see somebody up coming from behind in an orange armor with a gun. Well, it turns out that's Nathan Fillion. So he's popped up. He was in the original as an alien. He was supposed to be in the second one on movie posters saying he was Simon Williams, and that got cut. But he's finally getting his face in an MCU movie. So now I was hoping he would actually be cast as somebody, but at least he's finally getting on it. So, all right, we're running a little bit later than normal, so let's go ahead. We'll take our break, we'll come back, and we'll talk about Iron Man on the rewatch. Be right back.
Join the party. Head over to our Linktree to find all the links for everywhere the experience.
Comic Collectibles is here for you every Wednesday with AR Comics for two very important reasons. To sell you rare, one-of-a-kind comics that you'll love, and to confuse AR with old man talk. You see, Rex and John are, how should I put this, ancient as the roots of the mountains. So every week, Rex and John fill in AR in yet another area of pop culture that he missed because he's too young, just didn't have the time, or just really doesn't care about. It's a real public service they provide. Come buy some super rare and unique comics, while old men explain long-dead sci-fi shows to a younger man making that confused puppy face. Every Wednesday from 6 to 8 Eastern with Rex, John, and AR Comics. Comic Collectibles on The Experience. Comic culture and sales.
ShopLocator.com to find a store near you.
You know how when you go to Comic-Con, after Comic-Con, you go to the hotel bar, and there's a whole bunch of people playing music and dancing, and you've got Pikachu and Lara Croft Tomb Raider doing the cha-cha slide just down from Deadpool and Batman and Wonder Woman? That's every Saturday night over on the Experience Twitch channel. Join Taji Beats for the EXP Dance Party, exclusively on Twitch, twitch.tv/the_EXP.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the Dan Wickline Show on The Experience. Please hit the like and subscribe buttons if you have not done either of those. And I wanted to tell you real quick about on Friday's original art experience with Nick Barucci. They have a very special thing going on. Nick has gotten his hands on an entire comic. All the pages from a Spider-Man comic drawn by John Romita Jr. and inked by Scott Hanna. So he's going to be selling all those pages. I know producer Kyle is after a specific page with Hobgoblin on it, but they're going to be putting the entire book up for sale on Friday, and that should be pretty cool. Think he'll take $5 for it? Probably not. Probably not. No. But so, all right, let's get into Iron Man. Now, I sat down and watched Iron Man, and I've watched it plenty of times. I mean, I saw it a couple times in the theater. I saw it here in LA. I went to Emerald City Con that weekend that it came out, or the following weekend that it came out, and saw it while I was up there. Tone, myself, and some other people went over to the theater that was next to the convention center and saw it one night after the con. So, I've watched it on home release. I've watched all the behind the scenes stuff. Yeah, it's quite a bit of footage. I mean, so I wanted to watch it this time with a different idea. I think that Iron Man may be one of the best Marvel movies. And the reason is that it started everything. There was no expectations. There was no, they had to do something with a low budget because, they didn't have a big support backing. They didn't have Disney at that point. They didn't have the A-list characters or B-list characters. That when it was announced they were doing Iron Man, the headlines literally read, Marvel kicks off studio with C-list characters. So Iron Man's the first one out of the gate. And, we think of Robert Downey Jr. right now as, this icon in the film industry. But at the time, he was just getting back to it. He'd been in jail. He was working his way back to being considered. A lot of people were against it. They had to be convinced of him. They wanted a bigger name, a more established name. Iron Man was at worst B-list when that was filmed. To comic readers, yes. To the general public, nobody had really heard of Iron Man. Jay says, I didn't know till a year or so later about that end credit scene with Fury. I just happened to be rewatching it and let it play. I was like, how the hell did I miss this? Yeah, they established the idea of end credit scenes. And I don't mean it from they weren't the first one to do a Monk's Reward or an end credit scene, but they were one of the first to do one that was really important, and establish that you don't leave the theater during a Marvel movie. But we were talking about Captain Marvel last week, and that's appropriate, being the new trailer just came out. And we were talking about why that didn't work and why Iron Man did. Because Iron Man of himself is a tough sell. He is corporate. He is rich. He, makes weapons. He's not a guy you sympathize with. He's narcissistic, and that's a tough sell to get people to care about the character. And if they did the story linearly, I don't think it would have worked. The single smartest thing that they did, and I don't know if this was in the original script, if that was something that Jon Favreau decided to flip, if it was something that, the higher-ups came up with, where the idea came from. But starting the film where it did, and then jumping back, was it 16 hours? Was the single smartest thing they did in that movie. Batman got us loving narcissistic capitalists who like to beat up crime fighters. No. Batman got us to appreciate really dark, edgy characters who went through major tragedies in their childhood and become obsessed with that. That's not Iron Man. His parents were killed, but other than that, he was much older at the time. The fact that they showed it from in the Humvee gave us the save the cat moment. And it's subtle because it's when you do a save the cat moment, sometimes it's just blatant. You know, you show somebody saving somebody, and oh, he's a good person. In this case, it's simply how he treats the soldiers. You know, we know he's a bigwig. He's in a suit in a Humvee with 3 soldiers who are treating him like a rock star. And he starts joking with them and doing photos with them and answering questions. And at a time in 2008 where the military was probably at a high of, you know, among the general populace, this immediately endeared a lot of the audience to the character. Now, they hadn't seen him be a narcissistic jerk yet. What they saw was a rich guy who obviously is above these soldiers, but doesn't act like he's above it, just has a great conversation with them, and then everything goes to hell. And he gets hurt, and then we see him captured. So our introduction to him is, oh, this nice guy. And any other point in the movie where you introduce Iron Man before he's in the cave with Jensen, he's not a nice guy. He's not someone you're going to get endeared to. You know, the scene with at the poker or at the craps table, that's not going to win you over. The fact he doesn't go get his award because he's playing poker, he gives the award away to the guy dressed as Caesar, sleeping with the reporter, the way he makes Pepper do the things she does, none of that would have endeared us to the character. But the fact is, we meet him in a good moment, and then we see him in crisis. So everything else we get after that, we're now predisposed to like the character. And again, that I think is something Captain Marvel didn't do. They didn't give us the save the cat moment. You know, they didn't give us a reason to like her. Now, from there, there were some things that I thought were interesting choices. One of the things that I thought of while I was watching the movie, and then realized that they had addressed and then decided to go a different way, was him going to Kandar or whatever it is and fighting for the first time as Iron Man against the terrorists and saving the villagers or whatever, you know, where he blows up the tank and, you know, saves that kid's dad and then has the scramble with the F-16s. The thing that I thought of while watching the movie was, how did he get there? We know it takes a long time. In Iron Man 3, it took him a long time to fly from LA to the Midwest, where he met the kid. So how did he get all the way from LA to the Middle East that quickly? Well, it turns out if you watch the deleted scenes, they answer that question, but then decided not to go that route. So they were actually going to answer that question because they have him ask Pepper to set up a party in Cairo. And they end up going there. And then at the party, he slips out. And then she finds him in the damaged suit in Cairo. So there was this whole scene about him going to Cairo and then as Iron Man going and taking on these guys. So they tried to answer that question, but realized that the scenes didn't work that well. We'd already shown that Tony is a partier. We don't need to see that again. We don't need to see him create the fake cover. It didn't add anything to the movie. So instead, we have to just accept that, okay, he got there somehow. whether he did the fly really high up and then drop back down, so he goes with the the curvature of the planet. I don't know. There's lots of different ways they could explain it, but they decided not to. And I think in a lot of ways, it's good that they didn't. Davey says if they had shown the scene with Bree and Sam Jackson in the diner first, then gone back to her on Hala, it might have been a better movie. Yes, there's ways they could have re-edited that movie without having to shoot anything else that I think could have saved the movie. That's one of the things I talked about last week, but I think I did it on Tuesday, so you weren't here, JD. Yeah, I'd love to get an editing bay and just get that whole film and try to re-edit it, because I think you could do a good job. It's just you just don't get that connection to her. Jay says the weirdest thing for me personally is hearing these characters weren't popular before. Then again, I can only name 2 Pokemon. Guess I just paid more attention to superhero cartoons and stuff as a kid. Yeah, I mean, I was reading Iron Man when I was 7. They're all popular to me, but you know, when you walk out, you ask one of your parents who a character is, or one of the things I love is every time there's a new hero coming out, like Wonder Man. Wonder Man is now filming. They have set photos of Ben Kingsley as Trevor Slattery again. But I told Lisa, I said, yeah, they're working on a Wonder Man series. And she's like, that's a dumb name. I'm like, yeah, I know it's a dumb name now, but when it was created, it was kind of a cool name. She goes, yeah, but it's now, it's not then. I'm like, yeah, but the character's established. And she does that with a lot of the a lot of the character names, because some of them are just silly. When you think about them, Silver Surfer is really not a great name, Jay says, my dad wasn't into comics, but he loved the Thor movies and Deadpool. Yeah, my dad wasn't into comics, and I don't know if he ever watched any of the Marvel movies. I think he watched Iron Man. That was about it. Damn, I don't know if Wonder Man was ever a cool name. Good point. I'm not going to argue with you on that one, but there are some silly names in comics that we use nowadays, and it's like we're used to them. And it would be weird if they suddenly came out and said, no, we're not using that name. We're going to use this other one because, it's silly. Green Lantern. He's named after a lantern that just happens to be green. They could have come up with a lot of different names, but Green Lantern? So that was one of the things that I feel that they tried to address and realize we don't need to address it. One of the things they didn't address that have always bugged me about Iron Man, and it always will, unless I can find some time to sit down with one of the high-ups and go, why did Obadiah Stane try to kill Tony Stark? Because after he's kidnapped and decides that they're just going to make baby bottles and stuff, the original Green Lantern had a purple costume. Oh my God. I remember the red shirt and the green pants. I don't remember purple. I'll have to look that up, Nick. But the thing with Obadiah, when he hires the 10 rings to kill Tony, it doesn't make sense, because he's already running the company. Tony is making these weapons and stuff. So the whole thing is just churning along. We don't establish that he's going to take him out, or red shirt and purple cape. Sorry, I meant purple cape with red shirt and green pants. Purple cape. Wow. Interesting. Or they colored it based on a jelly bean bag. Good to see you, Nick. I got to say, glad they ended up going with green. Yeah. But so that's the one thing we don't get answered. Now, if it turned out that he was working for Hydra and that they were going to completely take over Stark Industries, it was the next move in their plot to take over the world, then I could understand it. So if they like retroactively said he was part of Hydra, but at this point, it just doesn't make sense that you would kill the golden goose, or the goose that lays the golden eggs. I mean, that's pretty much what he calls him in the movie. So why would he kill Tony? So that's the part I didn't understand. But other than that, I think they tried to address the travel thing. Other than that, it's a very strong movie. It gives us a good chance to meet the character, and they progress the character along. If he had stayed the millionaire playboy and the narcissist and all that, I don't think it would have been as popular. But the fact that they show him on this trajectory, things are happening with Pepper, you see him making the choices to clean up the mess. It's a good story arc. But it's a good story arc that they started off by giving us that hint that that person was in there, rather than just starting off telling us this guy is a narcissistic a-hole and you got to stick around because he'll get better. They showed us that germ of a possibility, and that's what got people around. JD says he was jealous of Tony getting all the credit people have killed for less. I don't buy that, because yes, I could see that being something people would kill for, but Obadiah is smart, and he would know that Tony can do things other people can't do, so he really would be hurting his own company. So, all right, let's do a quick break, and we come back, and we're going to do some key collectibles from the Iron Man world.
Did you know that every Experience show, including some exclusive content, streams on Twitch? Check it out, twitch.tv/the_EXP. Or just scan that QR code.
Imagine being at a convention and going to an interview panel that's just for you. No bustling crowds, no hours-long lines, just you, the moderator, and your favorite comic book creators. Well, this is pretty much that. Miss Jen sits down every week with 2 comic book creators for a live stream interview about their latest work, and you can ask them whatever you want. It's Talking Shop, Mondays at 5 Eastern on The Experience, Comic Culture and Sales. Did you know that across America there are over 2, maybe even 3 live stream producers who can't even afford Mountain Dew? Take Brian here. Brian has gone 2 weeks without a sip of Red Bull. If it goes on much longer, he may take a shower and get a real job. Situations like this are as tragic as they are preventable. Join The Experience on YouTube and gain access to special emojis and members-only streams. For less than a cup of coffee, you can keep socially awkward hermit people working from their parents' basements where they belong. Scan the QR code on the screen to join. You'll be glad you did.
Go follow The Experience on TikTok at @the_EXP1 or scan the QR code on the screen. Our TikTok is like everywhere else we are, except you only have to deal with us for a minute. Seems like a win-win to me.
Welcome back to the Dan Wickline Show. We are going to cover some key collectibles real quick Tomorrow we will be talking about The Mandalorian Episode 7. If there's not a ton of news, we'll break down a little bit more of the trailer from Marvel's. If there is a ton of news, we'll save that for next week. But let's go ahead and jump in. These collectibles are from the Iron Man rewatch. So we got a lot of books here. We're going to start off with Tales of Suspense number 39 from 1963. And this, of course, is the first appearance of Iron Man and the Model 1. They call them Model in the comics, where they call them Mark suits in the films. This is not a cheap book. This is a $44,000 book for the high end. You're still paying about $18,000 to $19,000 for a medium copy. Even a Thrasher book is going to cost you $6,000. So if you have one of these, awesome. Tales of Suspense 45 in 63 was also the first appearance of Pepper Potts and Happy Hogan, who, of course, are major parts of the movie. This one's going to run you about $2,800. Median price is about $835. You're still going to pay over $100 for a cheap copy. So then we have, of course, Avengers number 1, founding of the Avengers. Iron Man joins the team. It's 1963. This one goes for $21,000. So less than Iron Man number 1, but still a pretty high price. This is going to cost you about $5,700 for a median copy. Still going to go almost $2,000 for a low-end one. Hey, Backwoods. Now here, this is an important issue because we see the Model 2 armor for the first time, the red and gold armor that, even though it's changed quite a bit over the years, this is the template. This is where the main design started. This was Tales of Suspense number 48. This is going to cost you about $1,200 in the high end, about $400 median, even $120 for a low-end copy. And I don't know who Mr. Doll is. I don't think he ever came back. So Iron Man number 1, the first ongoing Iron Man series with an amazing cover by Gene Colan. I actually got a print of this from Hero Initiative one time that's signed by Gene Colan. I have that in my folder over there. This came out in 1968. Not too bad for a first issue like this. It's going to be about $2,200 for a high end. But you can pick up a first edition copy for about $800, maybe even get a low reader copy for about $225. So you can get this into your collection. This, of course, is the first appearance of James Rhodes. This happened in Iron Man number 118. Always loved this cover. The idea that he can't actually reach his armor as he's falling from the helicarrier. This one's only about $55. Pick it up for $15 in the median and about $5 in the low end. This one, this is the iconic cover. This is not the first of the Demon in the Bottle stories, but this is the cover everybody thinks of when they're talking about the Demon in the Bottle series, covered by Bob Layton. This is Iron Man 128 from 1979. The high end on this is $100. Median's about $35, low end's $9. So, and of course, this is the first appearance of Obadiah Stane in Iron Man number 163 from 1982. You can pick this up cheap. The high end's only about $4, so you can pick this up for $1 or $2. Then we have his first appearance as the Ironmonger was 3 issues later in Iron Man 166 in 83. And again, $4 for the high end. But again, you can pick this up for $1 or $2 at most comic shops. Iron Man 170 from 1983. This is where James Rhodes dons the Iron Man suit for the first time. High end on this is only about $12. Median range is about $3. Low end's about $1. This was a huge moment in the comics. And of course, West Coast Avengers 94 is he had already taken on this armor. Tony made this armor for himself. The War Machine armor. It appeared in a series with Tony wearing it. It eventually went to Rhodes, but this is where Rhodes decides, I'm going to be named War Machine instead of Iron Man from now on. I have my own name. And the high end on this is about $50. Median's about $15. Low end's about $5. Of all the things about him taking the armor, wearing the first appearance of this armor, this is the one that has the value. So look for this one. Okay, what else we got? Was that it? That was it. That was the last one for today. Again, I'm really enjoying doing these rewatches and then also doing the comics related to them. But I'm really surprised at how solid the Iron Man movie was, especially being that it's 15 years old now. You know, the special effects still hold up. And then I watched some of the back stuff because they put that stuff on Disney Plus now. Normally I have to get out my Blu-rays for those things, but they've got them on Disney Plus now. And there's a whole interview with Jon Favreau talking about how he doesn't know how this is going to go. You know, he said this could be a hit or it could be a big flop and we never do anything like this again. He's like, this could change my life. He's speculating about all this stuff. So back before they decided they need 3.5 hours to tell a story. Yeah, this was a solid like 208 or something. And it really was solid storytelling. I miss movies like this with the Marvel Universe. When the fact that they're all connected and stuff, every once in a while I want a movie that stands on its own. That's why some of my favorite movies aren't Civil War, Endgame. My favorite movies are Shang-Chi, Doctor Strange, the first Iron Man, the first Thor, the ones that we get to know who the character is first. And then we can lead them into the universe. Yeah, Moon Knight was another one. That was that nice standalone on that. That was also back before we had 200 characters, true. JD says, I was blown away. They ended the movie with him admitting to being Iron Man. And from what I understand, that wasn't actually originally in the script. It was decided during the shoot that they would do that. So I thought that was awesome because the one thing they haven't cared about, and it's the one thing that the Arrowverse did away with too, secret identities. We get so many almost sitcom moments in comic books, people trying to protect their secret identities. Matt Murdock posing as his own brother to get people to think that he's not Daredevil. All of that. When you eliminate the secret identities, and not necessarily to everybody, but when the people closest to you know, that type of thing, it becomes a lot easier to tell stories. So I like that they did that in there. I like that they did that in the Arrowverse. So, all right, need to wrap it up. Stay tuned for Comic Collectibles with Rex, John, and AR Comics coming up right now.
Do you remember what it was like when you were a little kid and you got a letter in the mail? Now imagine that letter was filled with information about your favorite shows, pop culture questions, links to things you're going to want to see later, and even sneak peeks at upcoming programming here on The Experience. That's what the EXP mailing list is. Every week, we send you sneak peeks, information, and all of the relevant links for all of the shows you want to see. Sign up now on our website or scan the QR code that's on your screen right now.